live streams. This is kind of the stupidest thing ever, me trying to do live streams. It's just practice. So we could actually start really teaching this stuff. One of the things I just wanted to look at or talk about today is when someone comes to me and says, hey, I would love to work at Clayton Vance Architecture. One of the first things I do is I pull out a little plastic version of this, which is the Doric order in the classical orders in classical architecture. And I say, can you name all the parts and pieces of this thing? If they say yes, now we're talking. If they say no, it's like, can you say, like, name anything? And I guess the question for me is, from you, why? Why is this so important? Why do you care if they can name all the parts and pieces and know that that thing right there, that tiny little piece is called the abacus, and that little piece right there is called the echinus, and that little piece is the necking, and that's a fillet, and that's a torus, that's a plinth, the shaft. Why? That word, order. Everything within architecture should begin from a fundamental understanding that it participates in a larger compositional order. What we have is we have at the largest scale, the world. There's Florida, there's all this other stuff, right? You like my South America. We participate in the world, then we participate in our state. Oh, there's my horrible California. Looks more like that, San Diego, LA, Bay Area. Then we participate in our city. Then we participate in our neighborhood. Then we participate in our block. And then the composition keeps going down. The house is a little mini microcosm of that, of a city. Because all of the same fundamental elements still exist. The service elements in order for, I get to excel human flourishing, that still exists. The beautiful elements, the hierarchy of space in terms of what is to be done in what given space, and all the different places for the different purposes, uses, and functions and edification of any given individual. And so within the house, what does the house actually look like? Like that. That's my stupid. I was going colonial, then I decided to throw a gable on it, and now it looks like idiotic. It's hilarious. It's a new style. We'll just say it's a new style. Anyway, so within the house, the order and how you go through the house, approach the house, sequence through the house, the value of all of this stuff is more than the stuff it's made of, because it's made of the ingenuity, the designs, the thoughtfulness of all of those who are making it and designing it so that we properly position all of our views, our spaces, and order them in a way so that we have a beautiful experience, not a super horrible experience in our built environment. Back to the column. Why is that so important right here? Because beginning to understand this helps you understand proportion, and proportion will flow, ebb and flow through pretty much every compositional principle, from room size to room height to room volume to room sequence to details, in everything. Proportion is a fundamental part of compositional design, meaning human beings, we are proportioned a very specific way. We learn about, I talked about order. We learn about details. And one of the things that we get wrong so often in today's world, we make mountains out of molehills. I always say that the architecture is the physical manifestations of the people who make it, and details, the details of our lives, the details of everything. It's like, let's conscientiously think about all of these things a little bit more. The details of architecture, there's the construction details, there's the design details. It's the details that begin to make the thing, or it's the details that begin to give the thing its individual character. And there are tons of details right there. And the proportions of those details as they relate to each other is absolutely critical. Details, details, details. And as you begin to understand the nuance of the detail of this thing and how it falls into tradition from the ancient Greek temples in the Parthenon and what those kind of disc-style columns looked like with no base and fluted column shafts and all that type of stuff, then you begin to understand how history evolved, not history, I don't want to say history, it's how society transformed this particular language of architecture, and honestly all of these, in all reality. I'm just using the Doric because it's the simplest one, it's the one that most fabricators can actually make reasonably accurately. And so, what it does is it teaches you about architectural history, tradition, and language, architectural language. And when you begin to understand those things, you can begin to understand that it participates in a greater story than itself, and then what your inventions may be. And when you begin to understand how all this stuff works together, you can begin to create homes, regardless of style, that are exceptional contributors to the overall community composition and amazing compositions within themselves. Architecture is a holistic endeavor because it encompasses all of those things for the purpose of trying to create civilization and and provide an atmosphere for human flourishing. That is what this whole thing is about. And at the base of that, and I could use any one of these things to essentially teach the same principle. And the reality is once we get into the Ionic, Corinthian, and other orders, then we introduce hierarchy, visual hierarchy. And understanding that becomes absolutely critical in understanding building types, room types, and all that stuff. And without a great understanding of those things, we might as well just play a game called Guess That Building, because any modern building, I can do this, put some sort of lean-to shanty roof on this, come up with some sort of other weird shape, put this, and here's my door. And then cantilever this out because that's cool, and so that'll be a balcony. And it's like, all right, guess what kind of building that is? There you go. Guess what kind of building that is? That could be a house, an office building, a church, a sports stadium. It could be anything. It could be anything. All right. If I were to draw a very simple form, look like this. What's that? I think we all know what that is because it's a very simple form. This one's interesting because it could be a couple different things. What does it look like? A courthouse, a civic building of some sort, a library. In fact, Chicago, I went to the Art Institute this last weekend in Chicago. It's very similar to that form, okay? What's that? It's a house, right? So building types, forms, shapes, the symbol of the thing. It's building types. This helps us understand and read society better so that we're not confused when we're walking around, as opposed to what a chaotic architecture of disorder will do, which is essentially modernism to some degree, or to all degree. And so this helps understand our environment and navigate through it very logically. This lends itself to confusion and stress. So, why, going back to this, understanding the Doric order, it has a lot more to do than with naming the parts and pieces of it, but all of the fundamental principles behind what that thing represents. And if we can do that, then